This is another episode of Standup Comedy, your host and MC, celebrating 40-plus years on the fringe of show business. Stories, interviews, and comedy sets from the famous and not so famous. Here's your host and MC, Scott Edwards.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the podcast. We have something fun for you today. A good friend of mine who's been in the comedy industry for over 40 years. He's also a tremendous golfer, has nothing to do with entertainment, but he's a fun guy to hang out with. And he used to work my club on a very regular basis. Why? Because he's tremendously funny. Please welcome none other than Jeff Jena.
Thank you, Scott. Please, stay in your seat. Please, stay. The crowd was just going wild there. I can't believe it.
Well, they're just so excited to hear from you. You know, here's the story. Jeff has been a longtime professional comic. We've been working together for many years through the clubs, and we're both in our latter years of our entertainment careers. But Jeff has put himself back out on stage on a regular basis. He's tearing up clubs from his home state of Ohio into the East Coast and around the country. Jeff, what's it like going back out on stage and interacting in this industry we call comedy?
Well, it's great for me. I mean, I just turned 71. I've been doing comedy since 78, I think, was the first time I ever got on stage. So what is that? 45 years, I think. You know, it's a sickness, you know, it's like sometimes, you know, some people say, you know, why does Jerry Seinfeld has more money than the Pope? Why does he still work? You know, it's not about the money. It's about being an artist and about wanting to work, you know? And I mean, nobody ever says, oh, you know, Picasso, he sold tons of paintings. Why did he keep painting? Well, because he had to, you know, it's just who he is, you know, it's a big part of who he is. And it's the same with me. It's like, I love being on stage. I still like working. And it's not about the money. It's about the work for me, you know, it's about the work.
Seinfeld's a great analogy. Also, Jay Leno, both of those guys are back out working on a weekly basis. They don't need the money. They love
Tim
the
Allen's
interaction.
out working. I mean, Tim Allen's, those guys are wealthy beyond belief. It's not about the money, you know. It's really not.
It's the creative work and interacting with the audiences. But here was why I thought we'd have a short conversation, Jeff, is that things have changed. We worked together in the 80s and 90s, and it's a new age. And being back out there, I was wondering, for example, you know, what you thought of the audiences these days.
You know, the people are great, man. I mean, people want to laugh. And people want to be entertained, you know. All you have to do is give them what they want, you know. And they're willing to listen, too. It's not like people are not listening or tuning in. And I think I think that the whole cancel culture, I mean, it exists, but it's overrated, you know. I mean,
let's hope so.
I mean, it's not. I mean, and when I say that, I mean, it's not. It's not what people think of it as being, you know. It's like I don't feel like I'm in any way restricted as to what I can say or can't say on stage.
So you haven't adjusted your material, because you were really funny and had tremendous use of verbiage in your comedy, stronger than many stand-ups. And it comes from the fact that you used to teach, and you're kind of into math, and you've got a brain going. Has that?
Some people would deny that, by the way, that I have a brain going.
But the material didn't really need to be adjusted for today's audience. That's great to hear.
Well, I don't think so, and I think it's wrong to say that the people today are too stupid or whatever. You know, I don't think people are stupider, or I don't think in general people are more sensitive than they were. I think people are people. Now, are there like outliers who, you know, if you say the wrong pronoun or something, are going to go, oh my God, I'm so offended. Yeah, so what? You know what?
That's the best response.
go be offended somewhere else, because I don't care.
Yeah, but the thing is, those people shouldn't be in a comedy club anyway. I mean, if you're that sensitive, get the hell out. But I think it's great that you have that perspective and it's working for you. When you're working, is it harder to find? I mean, are you getting bookings in the same old way you did back in the 90s?
Well, here's the weird thing. I'm not actively seeking work.
Oh,
and now back in the day, and you tell younger comics this and you feel like you're ancient and you go, I remember when I had to sit down and send out packages to bookers with a tape. And what's a tape, Grandpa? A tape was a physical thing that had your show on it that you sent so people could see your material.
I could see how that might age us.
So my stuff is online. My website's there, but I don't actively call and seek work anymore. But I'm finding a lot of work is finding me. I'll put it that way.
But that's also
which is awesome.
Yeah, but it also showcases your talent and your availability to talk to. I mean, I've seen you work. You could work a regular audience just as strongly as a corporate audience. Yeah,
and I get like club bookings, one-nighter bookings. I do cruises. I do corporates. I'm still doing. I don't do everything that comes in the door anymore, but I still do a lot of work. I'm leaving Thursday. I've got a New Year's gig. Then I come home and I got a cruise gig, and then I come home and then I got a theater gig, and then I got in February, I start the month with a huge theater gig at the Ohio Star Theater in Sugar Creek, Ohio. And then I'm moving a week later. I'm doing a kind of a private Valentine's Day thing up in near Toledo, Ohio. So, I mean, it's just like a lot of stuff happening, and it's nice to be at the place where work kind of finds me and I don't have to worry about, I need a gig. I got to get on the phone.
Well, also you can pick and choose what gigs you want to do. Whereas when we're all young and hungry, we kind of will take, the guys working in the laundromat and stuff like that, which we've all heard and experienced. So one of my questions is where you're getting gigs, but it sounds like it's pretty varied. You mentioned cruises, corporate, private gigs.
Yeah. And in March, I'm doing a week at some 55 plus communities in Florida. So there's all kinds of different, there's so many places to work today. It's really crazy how many venues there are where you can go work. It's just nuts.
Well,
it really is.
That's so nice for the working comics because both of us worked in the 80s when I opened my club, it was literally the 12th full-time comedy club in the country. So there weren't a lot of places at the time. So the fact that that's changed and everybody has opportunity, plus the people that are, trying to make themselves famous just on social media, which I think is crazy, but it's definitely something people are doing. We talked about,
but there were guys. I mean, people criticize social media so much. It's such an easy target to criticize. But if you don't have the chops, you're not going to last. There were guys who would do a Tonight Show or get a big TV show based on a clever 8, 10, 12-minute set, right? And you had them at your club, right?
Yes.
Who couldn't sustain a 45 to 50-minute headliner set, Yeah,
as a producer, it was always like juggling where you find out they can't follow the feature, you'd have to swap them. And the guy you're paying, you contracted for more money, is doing a shorter spot in the middle, but it was what was best for the show that mattered.
Right, exactly. And I mean, there are guys who are kind of internet sensations and men and women. I shouldn't say just guys, but if they don't have the chops, they won't last, and if they do, good for them. I mean, people find their audience in different ways, and I say any way you find your audience, that's how you do it, man. Social media is not some gremlin, that we need to hate on.
No, it's a tool. I mean, it's how you use that tool.
Right. And, if somebody's not good on stage and not delivering a quality show, eventually people will quit going to see their show. So.
Right. And I think the only reason I might criticize those folks, and it's not because it's social media, but there's such a difference between remember the difference between being the class clown in front of a few of your friends or being the funniest one in your family is so different, like being the funniest one on social media, in front of a live audience of strangers that paid money and have an investment to be entertained.
Right. It's very different.
Very, very different scenario.
Right. It's challenging, I think, if you've never been in front of a live audience to get in front of a live audience. And like I said, if they don't have the chops, they're not going to last. So what's the difference how they got there? If they're good, they know what they're doing. All right.
Right. It opens up opportunities. So that leads me to a great question. One of the things that I'm kind of out of in my retired stage is interacting with the new batch of comics. You're back out on the road where you're dealing with guys opening for you or featuring for you or emceeing for you. What's your professional take on this generation of entertainers?
Well, I think there's a lot of talented guys, and I mean, men and women, and it'll sort itself out. I mean, you look back at our years and years and years. I can't tell you how many hundreds and maybe thousands and thousands of people I've worked with, and I would say maybe 10%, if that big of a percent, are still working and making their living doing this.
It's a tough industry.
Yeah. So, you go to a club and the MC's not that good. Well, he'll either get better and learn, or else he'll get out. And that's never been different.
Yeah, it's a career of attrition. Only the best rise.
And there's a lot of great people out working. So and it's funny. I worked with a comic the other day who's a decent comic, but he has the same name as a very famous comic. And I said to him, he goes, I don't want to change my name. That's my real name. I go, I understand that. I said, but if your name was Jerry Seinfeld, would you change your name? And he goes, yeah, probably. I go, then you should change your name, even though that's your real name. And I suggested to him, I said, why not just bill yourself as not the Jerry Seinfeld?
Actually, that would be a great hook.
I know it would be. I know. No, I'm not the Jerry Seinfeld, but I am a Jerry Seinfeld. There's things like that. But
Jeff, that's great advice to pass down to somebody. Yeah. Do you find yourself mentoring young talent?
Yeah, there's a few guys who I kind of hang with and talk with occasionally, and they ask me for advice in that, and I'm always glad to give advice with this caveat that I tell anybody who asks me for advice about comedy. I say, listen, I've done pretty well. I consider myself to be successful, but I'm not at the Jerry Seinfeld, Tim Allen, Drew Carey level. I said, I can tell you what I think works. I can tell you what I think's funny. But if I knew the secret, I'd have used it myself a long time ago.
That is so true. But you are a huge success, Jeff. I mean, there's not a lot of people you could, there's a limited number that have made a 40+ year career making a living both financially and creatively.
I'm very grateful and I'm very blessed by my life, So I'm very, very happy to have had it that way.
Now, I have noticed on, speaking of social media, that there's been occasionally times that you've ranted about life and what we're dealing with. Is there?
Yeah, there's a couple things that, like, I've seen younger comics do that kind of irk me. Like, one is I've noticed a proliferation of people taking notes on stage.
Actually,
and it's just like
taking notes on stage?
Yeah, I mean, like taking a notebook or a piece of paper with their set
okay,
written on it on stage, and just saying, you really should have that down. It would be like going to a play and the actors come out with the book and they're reading the lines out.
Right.
Yeah. It's just like, nah, man, that's part of the deal is you know what you're going to do before you go up. Now, it's different if you were like, hey, I'm taping a special in a week and I want to try out these 8 new jokes. That's different. I'll give you a little slack there.
Or maybe an open
act,
micer. If you're an open micer
right,
and you're trying new material, I get it. But not if you're a paid artist.
No. I don't know. Not open micer trying new material. You should know your new material. Run it. Don't take a note on stage.
Okay. You're a little harsher than me. I get it.
Yeah. But, and you know what? Hey, why don't you wash the T-shirt before you wear it?
Are you saying they're not dressing for success?
It's not even dressing for success. It's like, my opinion is this, like, if I'm working someplace that's really casual, I'm going to be really neat casual because I always want to be dressed like one level above the audience because that makes you seem like an authority figure psychologically to people listening. So just I'll dress one level above. Like, if people are going to be wearing jeans and T-shirts to this room, I'm going to wear a pair of slacks and a nicer shirt.
Well,
I don't think you should.
For everybody in the audience, you've heard it before on this podcast, but that is a show business rule, and it's been echoed by people like Sinatra and Leno. I mean, every level of show business, you always want to be a little bit better dressed than the audience. One, as you mentioned, Jeff, for the authoritative position it puts you in,
right,
but also out of respect for the fact that they paid and made an investment in the evening to see you.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And it's like I used to say, I say, if a guy brings his wife to a show, and he pays $20 for him, $20 for his wife, and then they have a couple of drinks, and maybe they have some appetizers or even dinner. That guy's paid, he's going to pay $100, $150 for the night. If he has a great job where he makes $35 an hour, he just paid 4 hours of his life to see your show. Give that some respect. Give it some respect.
Yeah, but I like how you break it down financially because it's a big investment. It's a night out for people. Tom Dreesen told a story of Frank Sinatra was explaining to him that one of the reasons he always wore a tux was that some of these people in the audience worked and saved and, set aside a little bit of money every month to be able to come and see his show. And he wanted to give that respect back to the audience.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, those are two great things. Taking notes on stage and dress like you earned that position, that responsibility to be in front of people.
Right.
Well, Jeff, if those are the only 2 rants, you're doing pretty good.
Hey, I'll think of some more and we'll talk again sometime.
There you go. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I am luckily able to present a little bit of Jeff's recent material. Jeff, with your permission, I'm going to share a couple minutes of your stand-up. And thank you so much for sharing what's happening in your life in comedy in 2024.
Thank you, brother. Hey, Happy New Year to you, and I wish you the best, Scott.
All right, Jeff. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back next week with another great show. Jeff Jena out of Ohio. Thank you, buddy.
Take care, Scott.
It's a great mix of people here. How many young people here, by your applause, you still live at home? Give me your applause, you still live at home. Awesome. Oh, smart. Do not be embarrassed, young man. Listen. listen to this. Live at home as long as you possibly can. You got that? You suck every nickel possible out of your parents. Don't be in a hurry to get some dump of your own to live in. I lived at home till I was 27 because I was trying to find myself. And then one day, boom, I found myself out in the front yard with all my stuff. I come home, my dad had moved all my stuff out onto the yard. I'm going, but Daddy, this ain't fair. I'm still trying to find myself. It's like, well, son, you've been looking here for 27 years. Apparently you are somewhere else. Now go look there sometime. Maybe when you find yourself, you can pick up a job nearby. That'd be good. I moved back in with my parents when my mom was sick. My wife and I sold our house in California and moved back home to be with my mother and father. At the age of 55, I moved back into my parents' house. And I learned an incredibly valuable lesson when that happened that I'm going to share with everybody here tonight. I don't care if you're 18 or 88, it applies to our lives, and this is it. Here it comes, young man. Ready? Your relationship with your parents will continue to get weirder and weirder as you get older. You know what I'm saying? Remember when you're like 15, 16, you're living at home, arguing with your parents, you're up in your room. I can't believe I have to take this from those people! I cannot wait till I am 21. Because when I'm an adult, I will make them treat me as their equal. I cannot wait for that day! You know what I learned 10 years ago? That day never comes. You never get on the same adult level as your father, and I learned that one day when I was cutting the grass for my dad. I'm 55 years old at the time. I'm cutting the grass in the hot sun as a favor. Favor! Let me explain this to my young friend here. I don't get my allowance anymore. I'm not getting that big $1.25 a week I used to get. I'm cutting grass for free. All of a sudden, I turn around, my dad is sitting up here on the front porch. He's supervising my work. Now I'm 55 years old. I know how to cut grass. I'm not going to stick my hand under the mower. I'm not going to check the fuel with a lighted match. You, go in the house. I don't need your help anymore. And in that moment, I realize, oh no, it will always be this way. Someday I'll be 80. My dad'll be 114. He'll still be sitting up there on the porch. You're not doing it right! You never did anything right! And I'll be out there behind the mower. I just want your approval! Why can't you just love me? I thought you'd be dead by now. I thought this part of my life would be over.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Stand-Up Comedy, your host and MC. For information on the show, merchandise, and our sponsors, or to send comments to Scott, visit our website at www.standupyourhostandmc.com. Look for more episodes soon and enjoy the world of stand-up comedy. Visit a comedy showroom near you.